Hello everyone, it's Deja. Welcome back to my crafty space. Thank you so much for joining me today. In this video, I'm excited to share how I made these two stencils with my Cricut cutting machine. I will be using this to create two cards. Before we get started, pause this screen right here and read this important disclosure. Basically, if you want to take this idea and try it out, I really want you to be successful while having fun creating. And also, I don't want to bore you all with a bunch of rambling. As always, I will include all the materials and supplies that I used down in the description section of this video. Let's go ahead and get started in Cricut Design Space. Start off with a clean canvas. On the left side panel, go to the Shapes option and select the square. I will change the color of the square to gray to make it easier for you and me to see. I will then size this down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 because that is the typical card size that I like to make, but feel free to use whatever dimensions you'd prefer. Next, I'm going back to the left side panel to click on the Images option and then click on Advanced Search. I have already pre-selected the image that I wanted to use for this project, so I went ahead and typed them down. Select the image. A pop-up will come up and you'll want to click on the green button that says Add to Canvas. This next part is a little tricky because I am going to modify this image right here. I am going to duplicate this 3 times to get a total of 4 of this exact same image. Then hide the other 3 by clicking on the eye icon next to the images in the Layers panel. Start with one image at a time. Make sure you select the image that is not hidden and go down to the bottom right corner and click on Contour. Contour basically means to hide any layers that you don't want. I am going to hide or contour 3 of these corners and keep 1. You can't really see this well on my screen recording, and I apologize for this, but on the bottom of this contour pop-up screen there are 2 options to choose from. One is Hide All Contours, and the other one is Apply. Be sure to click on the green button that says Apply to save your work. I chose to keep this corner, so now I'm going to drag it down to the bottom left corner of my gray rectangle. I've noticed that Cricut Design Space now has cool aligning abilities so that I can see if it is lined up perfectly. I don't want the corner borders to line up directly above the gray rectangle, but just slightly on the outside of it. Now I will repeat the same steps by taking the next image and contour the borders until I have all 4 corners to go around my gray rectangle. I know that this might be confusing or probably isn't making any sense right now, but it will make sense when we are done making the stencils, and you'll see why this part is important. What I am creating is the margins for my stencil so that later I can line up my card within the parameters perfectly without guessing. But why I'm doing it this way is because, well, I couldn't find the perfect corner borders that I was looking for in Design Space, so that's why I modified it. These borders were intended for Cricut insert cards, and I'm not making insert cards. So now that I'm done making the stencil margins, I am going to click on my gray rectangle and then right click with my mouse to select Send to the Back. This will help me not lose track of where my margin lines are on my canvas. Then I'm going to size up my gray rectangle to 4 3/4 by 6 inches. That is also 4.75 by 6 inches. Keep in mind that my card size is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so it should fit inside the corner margins. Like I mentioned earlier, Cricut Design Space now has this new feature where you can see these red or purple alignment lines, which is really helpful in showing you how things line up and if the distance from one corner to the next corner is perfectly aligned. Of course, you can certainly use the old method of aligning things perfectly by going to the Edit option on the top left corner. I am making 2 stencils, so now I am going to duplicate my gray rectangle and the black corners once and then line it up perfectly next to each other. After that, I will hide one set and go back to the Images option, select Advanced Search, type in my image code, select the image, and then click on the green button to add it to my canvas. I really liked this pattern, and I've noticed that if you unlock the image and drag the corner of the image to make it bigger or smaller, it does change the way it looks, and I really didn't like that. I wanted to keep it true to its original pattern, so I made sure that the image was locked and I only dragged it out to make it fit inside the black corners. But as you can see, this image is not big enough, and if I left it like this, I would have an empty space down here. So I duplicated this image, and the next part is going to be kind of confusing as well, but just stick with me. we are going to use our contour tool again. I am going to start off with the second image that I duplicated from the original, and I will contour this image first. Obviously, I don't need all of the shamrocks and petals, so I am going to contour that first row of shamrock petals to make sure that it fits on the bottom. I will be honest and let you know that this part is time consuming, but the end results will be really, really nice. After contouring that first row of shamrock petals, I will drag this image back down to the bottom to make sure that it aligns with the first image and that it looks good. And once it looks good to me, I am going to have to drag it back and then contour the rest of the rows on the bottom that I don't need to make sure that it fits all within those black borders. To make it easier for myself, I did end up clicking on contour, and then again it got kind of cut off in my little screen recording here, but on the bottom of this pop-up I clicked on hide all contours. This just makes it so that Cricut Design Space hid everything, and then I was able to just select what I didn't want to hide, and that's all the black stuff that you see here. Those are all the things that are going to be shown, and it wasn't enough, so I went back and I hid that last row of shamrock petals, and now you'll see that it actually looks really, really nice and it lines up perfectly. After this, I selected both images and I attached it together to make it easier for me to duplicate this, but I'm not quite done yet. I am going to have to detach these images because I am making two stencils. I need to make two different layers. So I am going to start off with this first image and detach it. And then what I'm going to do is, again, we're going to have to contour. I know this part is very, very time consuming, but again, the end results will be really nice. I am going to click that first image and I am going to start off by hiding all the contour, and then I'm going to select all of these black petals because my first stencil is only going to be the 4-leaf petals. I am not going to do that smaller shamrock leaf. That will be on the second stencil. So here I am going to select all of these black petals because I want Cricut Design Space to cut these out. And then make sure you click that green button to save your work. And I forgot that last line, so I'm going to go back and contour that last row on the bottom. And here it is. And it was being kind of slow, so I'm just going back and I'm clicking all those. Again, be sure that you save this so that it hides those. All right, so now I have my first stencil. It looks really, really good. And now I am going to make sure to attach both the top and the bottom image. And now I'm going to go back to the other set and I'm going to detach this. And then I'm going to repeat the same steps, except for this time I am going to hide the 4-leaf clover or petals, and I'm only going to keep that smaller shamrock, and I'm going to start off by hiding all contour. So Cricut Design Space is going to select everything, and then now I am going to manually click on what I don't want to hide, and it is these little smaller shamrocks. And that was the first image. Now I need to go to the bottom image and I need to do the exact same thing. Let me know in the comment section if you are a seasoned Cricut crafter or if you are a beginner. I know that for a beginner this project will probably be very challenging, but if you are a seasoned Cricut crafter, this will probably be super easy to you. I know that there are many different ways on how to create stencils, and I do have another video that I made a couple of months ago on how to make multiple stencils. I will be sure to link that down in the description section for you. Alright, going back to my canvas, I decided that I wanted to align my first image with my stencil perfectly in the center. I will hide the black margins, select the gray rectangle and the 4-leaf petals, then go down to the combine option on the bottom right corner and select subtract. What this does is, think of it like a hole puncher. The petals got punched into the stencil. Those will become negative pieces that we won't need later. Then I will select my first stencil and right click with my mouse to select send to the back. And then I am going to put my black margins on here again, and I'm going to select the stencil and the black margins both together and then I am going to go and align them both in the center. Because I decided to align the first image in the center, I need to remove that last row of shamrocks on the bottom of the second set of stencil. So I'm going to contour that last row out. I will need to detach both images and contour the bottom image only. When I'm done, I will attach both images back together, align it in the center with a gray square, hide the black margins, select both the gray square and the shamrock image and align them both in the center. Keep them both selected and then go down to the combine option and select subtract. This will punch the shamrock into the stencil. And now I'm just going to drag that second stencil on top of the first one to make sure that I aligned it perfectly. You shouldn't see the first stencil peeking behind it. Now I'm going to right click with my mouse and send this second stencil to the back so that the black margins can be on top. And we are almost done. I am going over to text and I'm going to type out number 1, number 2, and I'm going to drag them both down to the bottom right corner. And what this is going to do is help me identify the first and the second stencil. Next, I am going to click on the number 1 and number 2 layer, and I am going to change that from a basic cut to engrave. Then I am going to do the same thing for those black margins. I am going to select both of them and tell my machine to not do a basic cut but to engrave them. So looking at the layers panel over here, there's a lot going on and I want to make sure my Cricut cutting machine knows exactly what to do. I am going to select everything on the left side, and Design Space is going to grab that first gray square, the 4 leaf petals, and the borders along with the number 1, and I'm going to attach them together, and I'm going to do the same for the second stencil as well. So now when we look at the layers panel, we will see them all grouped together. My Cricut is going to know what to do exactly, and I'll show you that in the next step. So now what we're going to do is we are going to go up to the make, that green button on the top that says make, and we are going to get ready to cut everything out. Be sure to always save your work. Now I'm going to move that second stencil over just a little bit, and I'm going to go to browse all materials and choose genuine leather, and I'm going to cut this with more pressure. And as you can see, my Cricut is going to engrave first, so that means I need my engraving tool, and then after that it's going to do a basic cut with the deep point blade. So you will need to have that deep point blade ready to go when it's done engraving. And now we are getting ready to go into the materials. I am using this stencil pack from Ego Sky that I got off of Amazon. This is 7 millimeters thick. You can get the 10 millimeters one too, but I feel like that's way too thick, so I'm going with a 7. And now I'm starting off with the engraving tool. It looks like this. And if you didn't know, I am using my Cricut Maker 3 cutting machine. And then after the engraving tool, I will be using the deep point blade to cut. And I am using this standard grip mat from Hobby Lobby. This standard grip mat is super sticky, and that's why I'm using it, just so that it holds this stencil sheet really well. And then I use my brayer tool to secure that stencil sheet onto the standard grip mat. So starting off here, I am going to put my engraving tool into my machine to get it ready to go. And then my machine is getting ready to engrave those border corners as well as the number on the stencil sheet. After it is done engraving, I will then need to switch that tool out with the deep point blade, and that is the black tool. So again, just following the prompts on Cricut Design Space, you'll know exactly when to switch out the tools or the blades. And then I like to just clean my blade before I put it in using some, scrap tinfoil sheet. And then close it up and it's ready to go. I used the genuine leather cut setting, so what that did was it cut through 2 passes, and I did have to do that twice, so I did a total of 4 passes. After that's done, I did double check to make sure that it cut through before I unloaded the mat from the machine, and it cut out just fine. As you can see, it came out beautifully. Everything just popped right off, And for some of the edges, it was a little bit trickier. My machine did cut through it, but it was just being kind of stubborn at coming out. So I just kind of bent it and it made some cracking noises, but it didn't rip. Just be careful, go slowly, and it'll come right off. But yeah, it came out really, really nice, and I really liked the settings that I used. Be sure to always do some test cuts before you just, start cutting, because your machine is going to be different from mine. And here we have our two stencils. Take a look at that and check out the engraving. So this is why it's important we do those margins and we put those numbers so that we don't lose track. It did not engrave through, it just did the top part, which made this look so professional and so pretty, and it's clean. And as you can see, this is stencil number 2, and you can see the margin lines and the number 2. Now I'm going to take my A2 size card panel and I'm just going to line it up, and as you'll see here that it lined up perfectly within those margins that we created in Cricut Design Space. And this just helps it so that we align our card perfectly when we do, the first and the second stencil, and we're not having to guess if I'm doing it correctly. And now I'm using my grip mat just to hold my card panel down, and then I'm going to place the first stencil on top to secure it so that everything is just in place. They're not shifting, they're not moving. And then I'm going to grab some ink pads to start blending, to start creating something really fun. This is actually the funnest part of this entire project. The designing part is not the funnest part, but it's the after part, if that makes any sense. And I am using Evergreen by Concord and Ninth to start ink blending this in. And then once I'm done, I think I use Pistachio next to do the second stencil. And I will stop talking and you'll just watch me finish the rest of these cards. Here are two cards that I made using the stencils that I just showed you all. It's so cute. This big old leaf is also from Cricut Design Space, and I just loved it. I used gold embroidery thread and thread it through the leaf, and some gold sequins from Spellbinders. And here's the second card that I made. Instead of using the full sheet, I cut it in half, and you can certainly use the other half for another card. And then I cut these leaves and also ink blended them and add the same gold sequins to it. Both of these Happy St. Patrick's Day sentiments are from Cricut Design Space, and I actually use premium adhesive vinyl instead of black cardstock. I just thought it looked really pretty, and I just put that on top of vellum. So here is a recap of the two stencils that we made in Cricut Design Space. I am just so excited that I was able to share this with you. I hope you enjoyed it and that you found some inspiration and will recreate something similar. Can't wait to see you all in the next video. Thank you so much for joining me again, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye!